so that we can decide, या हम ही लोग पूछ लेते हैं। और क्या?
Current affair is so dynamic that one or two classes, obviously, you know, that not each and
Actually,
everything can
Santosh sir
become
has a plan. He will take prelims वाला fact later on.
देखो करंट अफेयर्स अभी मेंस पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से पढ़ो, प्रीलिम्स पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से स्पेशल क्लास 4-5 दिन का हो करके वो हो जाएगा। तो मेंस पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू का कवरेज होना चाहिए। एंड द अमाउंट ऑफ बैकग्राउंड इंफॉर्मेशन ही गिव्स, डू यू वांट दिस और यू वांट, नहीं चाहिए, नो नीड। एक सेकेंड, वन बाय वन।
without background. How will we able to, you know, able to comprehend?
So background he gives is fine. You want him to reduce the background? You want to reduce the length of the notes? No.
इतने ज़्यादा लेंथ ऑफ द नोट्स याद रहते हैं?
पहली बात तो अपनी बात उनको ही समझाना क्या एग्जैक्टली और क्या कंसर्न है करंट में। But you said everyone has a concern about current affairs. What concern? तुम खुश हो? कंसर्न वाले लोग कौन है? उनके कंसर्न बताओ। यू एंड, तो तुम्हारे हिसाब से योर कंसर्न इज टू मच बैकग्राउंड। हाँ, जनरल इशू एंड करंट इज जनरल, मतलब देयर इज, यू कैन नॉट सेपरेट ना। अब हेडलाइन में आज का तो मैंने देखा नहीं है, हो सकता है बिम्स्टेक आया हो या फिर नेशनल रजिस्टर आया हो ऑफ सिटीजन्स या इस तरीके से। हाँ, तो थोड़ा करंट अफेयर्स का टाइम बढ़ाना कुछ लोग चाहते हैं, तो वो 8 तारीख के बाद से बढ़ ही जाएगा। 8 तारीख के बाद अपना कोई ऐसा इशू नहीं है, वो क्लासेस हो जाएंगे। क्लास
वीकली क्लासेस, इफ वी इंक्रीज द वीकली क्लासेस, हाउ विल यू कवर जीएस?
करंट तो फिर करंट का क्या होगा ना, व्हेन आई टीच पॉलिटी आई विल आल्सो कवर वही चीजें।
एनवायरनमेंट में आई विल कवर,
वो तो वो होगा ही होगा।
हाँ, तो टीचर्स कवर करेंगे,
सभी लोग करंट तो कवर करेंगे ही ना।
जैसे हम लोग क्लाइमेट शुरू करते हैं, वी विल कवर एवरीथिंग रिगार्डिंग।
जब आई विल टीच सिटीजनशिप तो रेफ्यूजी इशू, ये इशू तो करना ही है। पार्डन? हाँ, मगअप क्यों करना है? तुम्हारे हिसाब से थोड़ा बैकलॉग है ऑफ द इश्यूज, तो बैकलॉग नेचुरल है ना, क्योंकि जैसे आज ही इशू हुआ तो ही हैज टू डू रिसर्च, पहले उनको रिसर्च करके कंटेंट बनाना, वो बैकलॉग रहेगा। अच्छा, तो ज़्यादा रह रहा है, ठीक है। तुम्हारा कंसर्न बताना। बैकलॉग, no, you need not to compromise, you can tell. Daily thing, you want somebody should come and explain newspaper to you. हम लोग आपने करेंगे।
How can environment, polity, economics be without current affairs?
वो सब करंट ही रहेगा। तुम्हारा क्या, तुम्हारा अभी भी नहीं समझ में आया, हो गया तो फिलहाल और यस हाँ, सवाल ठीक है, तो don't entertain many questions. Huh? After class, he can entertain questions. Baki, and you started that question analysis. Prelims का question analysis हो गया, खत्म हो गया. वो जल्दी जल्दी करो. कम से कम जब पढ़ रहे हो क्लास में ज्योग्राफी में तो पता रहेगा ना कि this is what is recurrently asked or not. तो क्वेश्चन एनालिसिस फर्स्ट है, मतलब हैव पेशेंस, डू दैट क्वेश्चन एनालिसिस. ठीक है, तो अलग बुकलेट बना करके कि हिस्ट्री का ये आया था, मेंस में ये आया था, पीटी में ये आया था, ये पर्टिकुलर टॉपिक में. और कोई प्रॉब्लम, टाइम मैनेजमेंट एंड ऑल. सब हो जाएगा, उसमें कोई चिंता नहीं है.
तो मतलब जैसे क्लास का चल रहा है वैसे ही स्टडी करना.
हाँ, वो करना है. मतलब अपने से लग रहा होगा कि ऐसे नहीं मैनेज हो रहा है, वो सारी चीज़ें. तो फर्स्ट थिंग अभी कुछ याद नहीं करना है. नोट्स बनाओ, क्लास के नोट्स से अपने हिसाब से तुमको की पॉइंट्स हैं बस वो करो. और मेंस और प्रीलिम्स की क्वेश्चन एनालिसिस खुद से करके रखो. ठीक है, तो एज सच कुछ करंट का खास लगा नहीं क्या चाह रहे हो. तो अभी ये ऐसे ही कंटिन्यू करते हैं. बाकी हाँ, टेस्ट का रेगुलरिटी. ठीक है, तो टेस्ट का कुछ ये लोग जो इंचार्ज थे इनका कुछ पर्सनल प्रॉब्लम था, अभी हो जाएगा. प्लस मेंस के लिए था. चलो ओके.
Good afternoon, everyone. कौन सा? हाँ, सेम सेम सेम. हाँ, एक्चुअली जो रन ऑफ कच्छ में जो एनिमल्स है वो पाकिस्तान में भी मिलेंगे. हाँ, हाँ, हाँ. चाइनीज़ उनके बोन्स, उनके हेयर. हाँ, एंड मोर देन दैट they are not being killed because of hunting, they are killed because of inbreeding depression. Inbreeding depression ये तो मैं समझ में आएगा in environment ecology. जब ज़्यादा species नहीं है there is no genetic variety, and if there is no genetic variety there is inbreeding depression. Parsi community, same with humans. Parsis, inbreeding depression. So we have covered, I guess, till last time the drainage pattern. See, regarding current affairs, I feel कि थोड़ा late time जाने दो. You will get the feel of that. अभी तो you are very new and don't focus so much also on the current affairs. Exam में सिर्फ ऐसा नहीं है कि current affairs ही आएगा. So ज़्यादा हवा मत बनाओ current affairs का, और ज़्यादा tension भी मत लो current affairs का. नहीं तो प्रॉब्लम कहाँ होता है, यू रीड इनसाइट, यू रीड IAS बाबा, यू रीड विजन, यू रीड यहाँ के नोट्स, कंसोलिडेशन कुछ नहीं होगा. एक कोई तो नोट्स, इन द एंड करंट अफेयर्स किसी भी वेबसाइट का कॉपी पेस्ट ही है. सो द ओनली थिंग इज यू हैव टू सी कि कौन ज़्यादा अच्छा कॉपी पेस्ट कर रहा है. सो जो अच्छा कॉपी पेस्ट कर रहा है वो नोट्स फॉलो करो. सो संतोष सर कॉपी पेस्ट के ऊपर आई गेस ही डूइंग सम रिसर्च ऑल्सो. तो over the period of time it will improve. So I guess we have finished what is the system. System means the origin and the evolution of a river, how the river originates and flows in a certain region. And the pattern is uska shape when it is flowing, what is the shape of that kind of a river. System में दो systems are very important, antecedent drainage system and the superimposed drainage system. Superimposed peninsular India because ऊपर का rock कुछ और था when the river developed and नीचे का rock will be somewhat different. Today जिसके ऊपर it is flowing. Why it is different? Because ऊपर का rock has been eroded over the period of time. Then the antecedent is the rivers could maintain their original course even after the upliftment of a land. How could they maintain their original course is because they could cut through the mountains. Why they could cut through the mountains? Because they were already flowing in one particular path, and when the land started getting uplifted, dheere se they could cut through the mountains, giving rise to antecedent drainage system. So superimposed drainage system mein versus antecedent drainage system mein, you tell me this question. What is the answer here? The answer here is, do we have broad shallow valleys in the antecedent? No. Antecedent may we will have narrow valleys. Why? Because the rivers are going to cut. So A is obviously not possible. We have deep narrow valleys. हमने example भी लिया शिपकिला पास इंडिया का. Then this is what is known as gorges and canyons. The valley को जब हमने एक ही valley को when we consider, we will either call it as a gorge or either call it as a canyon. And D, why not? Deep narrow valleys or gorges and canyons will be possible only if the river is flowing with such a greater speed that it can cut through the mountain. When it is flowing with a greater speed, it carries big rocks. When it carries big rocks, it will erode the base of a land. And इसीलिए the rivers have to be swift here. अगर यहाँ पे होता swift flow of river, the answer would have been B, C and D. Remember, broad shallow valleys are characteristics of peninsular rivers, not that of a Himalayan rivers. The peninsular rivers have very broad shallow valleys. सी दिस क्वेश्चन इज अ जीएस का क्वेश्चन. अगर ये ऑप्शनल का क्वेश्चन होता तो द स्टेटमेंट वुड हैव बीन प्रेजेंट इज की टू द पास्ट इलैबोरेट. बट ये बिकॉज जीएस में है, सो दे विल आस्क यू, दे विल गिव यू मोर सिंपल एक्सप्लेनेशन कि आपको इस स्टेटमेंट का मीनिंग क्या है. सो स्टेटमेंट सेज दैट examine or elaborate how different external agents will help in reducing the landform. इसका आंसर अभी नहीं मिलेगा. For that we'll have to complete the geomorphology. So you keep this question in mind, and whenever we are doing this topics of denudation अभी from this part onwards, in सब के बाद you will have to write a 200 words का answer by taking into account weathering में क्या होगा, erosion में क्या होगा, what will happen in the fluvial erosion, what will happen in the glacial erosion, what will happen in the wind erosion. So by looking at the landform कि अगर मशरूम रॉक है इसका मतलब कि यहाँ पे विंड इरोशन इज डोमिनेंट. अगर वी शेप्ड वैली है, एलुवियल डिपॉजिट्स है, मीन्स यहाँ पे रिवर इरोशन वाज डोमिनेंट और इज डोमिनेंट. अगर there are numerous lakes and scratches on the surface of the earth, just like Great Lakes of North America, इसका मतलब once upon a time the glaciers were dominant, and therefore we can say present is key to the past. See, जो भी ज्योग्राफी ऑप्शनल के पुराने क्वेश्चंस है, हिस्ट्री ऑप्शनल के पुराने क्वेश्चंस है, पबैड के पुराने क्वेश्चंस है, दे आर कमिंग इन योर जीएस नाउ. इन द जो एकदम टेक्निकल नहीं बट जो नॉर्मल क्वेश्चंस है. फॉर एग्जांपल लास्ट ईयर देयर वाज अ क्वेश्चन ऑन द मलयन पेनिनसुला, हिस्ट्री ऑप्शनल का क्वेश्चन. देयर वाज अ क्वेश्चन ऑन क्रायोस्फीयर, impact of cryosphere on the surface of the earth. 2012 geography optional ka question, the impact of the cryosphere on the surface of the earth. So some of the questions are being repeated. The only thing is they are being repeated in the GS also. So Amarkantak plateau wala 5 times this question has come, 3 times in GS, 2 times in geography optional jab optional hua karta tha in the preliminary examination, that is till the year 2010. 2011 से then optionals went away from the preliminary exam and CSAT came. 2013 से then दोनों optional चले गए और एक ही optional आया. So UPSC is making job easy for you. पहले 2 optional और GS था. ये GS जितना आज है उतना ही था, सिर्फ ethics का पेपर नहीं था और world history नहीं था उसमें. But now they have made the GS very elaborate and they have added ethics ka paper. Because of coming of ethics ka paper, what has gone is one optional has gone. So that is good thing, because earlier when there were 2 optionals, there was more a matter of luck rather than hard work in the examination. Why matter of luck? Because there was too much diversity, so you could not see आपका ज्योग्राफी है फॉर एग्जांपल, दूसरा साइकोलॉजी है, तीसरा पबैड है. सो ज्योग्राफी में बहुत अच्छे मार्क्स आए, साइको में नहीं आए, बट मेडिकल साइंस में किसी और के बहुत अच्छा मार्क्स आए. सो द पर्सन विद ज्योग्राफी मेडिकल साइंस में गेट selected and the person with geography psycho may not get selected. So to remove all this, UPSC is trying to make sure that there is limited role of optional. So common paper hai, GS1, GS2, GS3, GS4, but still our quality of our answers should be much better, and we should deal with the most difficult question. Once you know how to write this question, most of the questions of geomorphology will be easy, because इसके पहले का part is very straightforward. That is sea floor spreading क्या है, continental drift theory क्या है. So with this we will start with the process of denudation. Barbed abhi nahi, barbed we will do it while doing the fluvial landforms. जब हम river capture करेंगे then. Denudation. So what does denudation means? Denudation means weathering and erosion. What in simple words denudation means? Denudation means how the height of a landform has been reduced due to external forces. External forces which arise from the atmosphere. क्या करेंगे ये external forces? Suppose there is a very heavy rainfall. Now because of very heavy rainfall, आपने देखा 2 दिन पहले, this external forces will erode the soil. Rainwater is coming with great speed, it is breaking the soil into smaller parts, and फिर उसको फ्लो के साथ उसको ले जाती है and it drains somewhere. Ultimately cities में और नाले में जाती है. गुड़गांव जैसे cities में जहाँ नाला नहीं वहाँ ट्रैफिक जाम हो जाता है. So you remember that गुड़गांव में थोड़ी भी बारिश it is a traffic jam. So बट ये सब डेन्यूडेशन हो रहा है, इट इज़ बीइंग कॉज्ड बाय द एक्सटर्नल एजेंट्स. दैट मीन्स अगर यहाँ पे सीमेंट कॉन्क्रीट का रोड नहीं है, इफ देर इज नो रोड, ओनली मड इज देयर, ओवर द पीरियड ऑफ टाइम दिस एक्सटर्नल एजेंट्स विल कॉज अ डिप्रेशन, दैट इज दे विल कॉज लोअरिंग ऑफ द रिलीफ. फाइनल जो लैंडफॉर्म है, कैन आई से इट इज नथिंग बट द फाइट बिटवीन एक्सटर्नल एजेंट्स एंड द इंटरनल एजेंट्स. एक्सटर्नल एजेंट्स वेयर दे आर डोमिनेट, lowering of the height. जहाँ पे internal agents are dominating, there is a greater relief. Example, Himalayas. कौन सा agent are endogenetic forces? Internal agents मतलब endogenetic forces. So in the Himalayas, endogenetic forces are more dominating and therefore the height is still increasing. Aravallis में there is no endogenetic forces. Why? Because अभी वहाँ पे convectional currents are not there. There is no collision. There is no folding which is occurring in the Aravallis because they are very very old mountains, and इसीलिए in the Aravallis only external agents are dominating. Therefore the height of the Aravallis will keep on decreasing over the period of time, and maybe our next generation will see that there is no Aravallis left. It will at least take 300 years for the Aravallis to become flat. Once, but the Aravallis are becoming very very flat and they will then become a part of a soil. So उसको हम कहेंगे Great Plains of India. Then अब वो Aravallis का जो soil है, if it is present in the desert region वो बन जाएगी desert soil. If it is present in this great regions, Great Plains, it will become either Tarai or Bhabar or Bangar or Khadar. That is the 4 different types of soil, that is an alluvial soil. So remember, the landform of an area is nothing but an expression of both endogenetic and exogenetic forces. Endogenetic forces will help in increasing the relief. Exogenetic forces will help in lowering the relief. So denudation you take down. Denudation is lowering of the relief or height. Denudation is lowering of the relief or height. Denudation is lowering of the relief or height. It is caused by both. Processes of weathering and erosion. It is caused by both the processes of weathering and erosion. So remember, for prelims, denudation includes both weathering and erosion. External or exogenetic forces. External or exogenetic forces are responsible for denudation. सबसे पहले weathering. A static process which causes physical disintegration. Disintegration मतलब टूट जाना. Physical disintegration or chemical decomposition. Chemical decomposition of rocks in situ. Is known as weathering. See, in this definition, examiner को you have given so many keywords कि ये static process है. उसके बाद इसी डेफिनेशन में आपने बताया कि देयर आर टू टाइप्स ऑफ वेदरिंग, फिजिकल वेदरिंग एंड केमिकल वेदरिंग, और इसी डेफिनेशन में आपने बताया दैट इसमें द रॉक्स आफ्टर ब्रेकिंग विल नॉट मूव, दैट इज फॉर इन सितु। इन सितु मतलब एट द सेम प्लेस। एनवायरमेंट इकोलॉजी में भी हम आएंगे इस वर्ड में, इन सितु कंजर्वेशन versus ex situ conservation. In situ conservation at the same place. Can you tell me an example of in situ conservation? एनिमल या प्लांट को अगर आपको कंजर्व करना है इन अ जू, तो इज इट अ इन सितु और एक्स सितु? देखो सी देयर आर सिंपल इंग्लिश वर्ड्स। एक्स सितु मतलब एनिमल इज टेकन फ्रॉम अ प्लेस, located somewhere and conserved. So zoo में animal belongs to the same place या जंगल से उसको लाया जाता है, जंगल से उसको लाया जाएगा and it will be conserved. So that is an ex situ method of conservation. In situ कि वहाँ पे animal is in that particular place and then वहाँ पे it is conserved. So कैसे conserve करेंगे? By stopping the human beings from going there. Threat किसको? Animals से, हमसे ही है. So we will stop the human beings, and stopping of the human beings has to be backed by the national laws. नहीं तो आप कहोगे मेरा तो right to ये है, right to freedom of movement है, मैं जाके जंगल में भी रह सकता हूँ, नहीं. So therefore there is a Wildlife Protection Act 1972 which will stop you from going to certain areas. They may be national parks, they may be biosphere reserves, or they may be the wildlife sanctuaries. So in situ conservation at the same place. So similarly in situ matlab rocks after breaking will remain at the same place. Erosion on other hand is an ex situ process. Rocks after breaking will be taken and deposited at some other place. And कौन करेगा वो? उसके लिए river लगेगी, not water. Water can be static also. उसके लिए we require river. उसके लिए we require winds. उसके लिए we require glaciers. So ultimately that is an ex situ process. Ex situ soil erosion, soil conservation, soil degradation. ये जो current के topics है. Yesterday there was a very good article on bioremediation, bioprospecting. Not in Hindu, Express. In the Express, there was a very good article on bioremediation, bioprospecting, bioaccumulation and biomagnification. That is biomining pe bhi that article was there, and it talked about also what is known as the biopiracy. So what are this? Biometrics, biopiracy, bioremediation, ये सारे terms है जो हमें over the period of time लगेंगे. And future belongs to biomining, future belongs to bioremediation, future belongs to bioprospecting. Bioprospecting का एक simple example, bio मतलब life. So लहसुन है, garlic is there, उसमें से सिर्फ research से ये पता लगता है it removes the cholesterol. Bioprospecting. Biomining, कचरा पड़ा है and उसके अंदर फिर जाके they take out the pure minerals, metals जो पड़ा है in that. Maybe you throw electronic goods, you throw the chair, उसमें से iron जो है वो फिर से काम में आ जाएगा. So that mining is biomining. Biometrics, each of us are very different and therefore we have a unique identity. So आपका मोबाइल सिर्फ आपके फिंगरप्रिंट से खुलता है, that is biometrics. आधार कार्ड biometrics. So this is an application of the biometrics or biodiversity. ये तभी possible है if there is biodiversity. अगर आप में हम सब xerox copy of each other, this won't be possible. This is possible because there is biodiversity. So remember this is also, so bioprospecting, biomining, ये सारे in situ process है. So but we'll come to that later on. Next point in weathering. In weathering, in the process of weathering, there is no movement of the weathered material. There is no movement of the weathered material unless under the influence of gravity. Unless under the influence of gravity. Unless under the influence of gravity. The weathered, unless under the influence of gravity. The weathered material the weathered material which moves down due to gravity, the weathered material which moves down due to gravity, moves, M-O-V-E-S, moves down due to gravity, is known as mass movement or mass wasting. Mass movement or mass wasting. Example, landslides. Example, landslides. तो ग्रेविटी के कारण ना landslides. If you remember, I have given you an example. I take a drilling machine, मैं इसको drill करूँगा, तो because of drilling, particles will come out. So, क्या हो रहा है? Weathering. क्यों weathering? Because this particles which will come out, अब ये ऊपर हवे में नहीं रहेंगे. They will not be there in the air. Why? Because they will fall down. Why they are falling down? They are falling down due to gravity. And if I allow the particles to remain on the ground, then it is weathering. On the other hand, if I take a broom and I collect those particles and deposit in dustbin, that is erosion. Why? Because the broken rock particles is taken by rivers, glaciers, winds and ultimately deposited in the sea. That is the grand base level. समंदर में, समंदर is our dustbin. In simple words, आजकल हमारे लिए literally वो dustbin ही बन गया है. That is for humanity. जितना भी कचरा है सारा समंदर में डाल दो. So over the period of time, what this mass weathering में there will be no movement. But can I say weathering will help in erosion? अगर बड़ा rock है and अगर वो agent of erosion cannot move, तो उसको छोटे छोटे टुकड़े करेगा weathering, and over the period of time this weathered material will be taken by the agents of erosion. अगर धूली नहीं है on the streets, चाहे कितनी भी ज़्यादा आंधी आने दो, let the speed of a wind be very great. If there is no dust particles, then there will be no dust in the air also during the. But what we do, construction, emissions through the vehicles, breaking of the rocks due to walking, due to breaking of the rocks due to heavy metals we are using. So ultimately, जब आंधी आती है in Delhi, dust storm becomes common in Delhi. Now you should know, कल का ही newspaper का है, कल का या परसों का, कि Delhi has experienced the cleanest air in last 3 to 4 years. Right now, this is the most clean air Delhi can give you in the last 3 to 4 years. Can you tell me why? Raining. So rain से क्या हो रहा है? ये जितना भी dust particles which is present in the air, it is settling down. It is also weathering के बाद the dust particles which is there in the air, it will settle down. So now you should understand, एक technique हम ये करेंगे, that is stopping the construction activity. जियोमॉर्फोलॉजी में, रेन्स उनका इम्पैक्ट क्लाइमेटोलॉजी में, और अल्टीमेटली पोल्यूशन हम कब पढ़ेंगे इन एनवायरमेंट इकोलॉजी. सो यू शुड नो हाउ टू रिलेट दिस टॉपिक्स, बिकॉज क्वेश्चंस जो आएंगे मेंस में, इट विल बी मोर रिलेटेड टू द पोल्यूशन, इट विल बी मोर रिलेटेड टू द एनवायरमेंट इकोलॉजी. क्वेश्चंस जो आएंगे ज्योग्राफी के इन प्रीलिम्स, इट विल बी वेरी डायरेक्ट. एंड रिमेंबर आवर डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन ऑफ द रॉक्स, बिकॉज दो पेपर 3 इज इकोनॉमिक्स, क्रॉपिंग पैटर्न, एग्रीकल्चरल क्रॉपिंग पैटर्न, ग्रीन रिवोल्यूशन, उसका इम्पैक्ट, इरिगेशन सिस्टम्स, ये टॉपिक है ज्योग्राफी के. दिस विल बी टेकन बाय मी, द रेस्ट विल बी टेकन बाय झा सर हु इज टीचिंग इकोनॉमिक्स अभी. दैट इज द सब्सिडीज क्या है एक्सेट्रा. बट क्रॉपिंग पैटर्न और सब, एंड कैन आई से क्रॉपिंग पैटर्न विल डिपेंड अपॉन द रॉक्स. क्रॉपिंग पैटर्न विल बी डिपेंड अपॉन द रॉक्स. एलुवियल सॉइल है, वहीं पे देयर विल बी dense cropping pattern. So you try to relate these topics of the syllabus. Next point, weathering will help in or will aid, weathering will help in or will aid mass movement as well as erosion. Will aid mass movement as well as erosion. But weathering is not a necessary condition. But weathering is not a necessary condition for erosion and mass movement. Weathering is not a necessary condition for erosion and mass movement. Now suppose this is an original rock. Over the period of time it has weathered, and when it is weathered, सिर्फ इतना ही rock बच गया. बाकी का rock has been broken. So the rock which has left is, we will call this rock as an core stone. While जो broken rock particles है which are collected here, this is known as, depending upon the size, you can make any of the size here. Regolith. It is known as regolith. Erosion can occur anywhere. Mass movement can also occur anywhere. जरूरी नहीं कि weathering has to be there for erosion and mass movement. For example, if there is a huge nuclear bomb explosion, landslides can occur, irrespective whether the rock is compact or not. Erosion, if there is a flood, so it can take away anything. So ज़रूरी नहीं, the rock has to be broken first. Therefore, and remember जो ये statement मैंने दिया है, ये prelims के statements हैं. That is the not a necessary condition. So I guess अभी you are going through NCERTs. You must have realized कि NCERTs नहीं पढ़ा तो भी चलेगा. So they are not written very properly. At least geography का, बाकी का नहीं. Geography का जो 11th standard physical geography का NCERT, it is not at all written properly. वो geography कम physics ज़्यादा लगता है. So that is not, and इसीलिए वहाँ से question solve नहीं होते. So read the notes very properly. और अगर कोई extra book आपको पढ़ना है after the notes जिसकी ज़रूरत नहीं है, notes, PPTs, handouts will be more than enough. अगर आपको कुछ extra पढ़ना है, then you can read GC Leong. That the choice is yours. If you want to waste time, read the GC Leong. But उससे क्या होगा? 1 or 2 questions may be, that is also I am not guaranteeing कि 10 में से 9 questions तो notes में से हो जाएंगे. एक हाथ क्वेश्चन एक्स्ट्रा के लिए यू विल रिक्वायर जीसी लियोंग, बिकॉज वो भी फैक्चुअल डेटा विच आई कुड नॉट कवर इन द क्लास. कंसेप्ट्स में देयर वोंट बी एनी प्रॉब्लम. जीसी लियोंग हमें लगेगा इन बायोम्स, दैट इज द लास्ट 10 चैप्टर्स. यस, वी विल रिक्वायर जीसी लियोंग. देन आई विल आस्क यू टू रीड द चैप्टर एंड कम टू द क्लास, एंड देन वी विल डू दैट. सो यू कैन बाय जीसी लियोंग, बट मोर फॉर द लास्ट 10 chapters, which is a part of environment ecology, not for the initial part. You can skip the initial part. Geomorphology, whatever we have done is more than enough. Just make sure that each and every line is important. Anything can come in the preliminary examination. So they can ask you, the original rock after weathering is known as what? A core stone. While the weathered rock material is known as what? Regolith. So take down. The weathered rock material, the weathered rock material is known as regolith. The weathered rock material is known as regolith. While the original rock, which has been reduced in size, but is still intact, is known as core stone. Is known as core stone. Is known as a core stone. is known as core stone. Types of weathering. The types of weathering. There are basically three types of weathering. One is the physical weathering. Second is chemical weathering. And the third is biological weathering. Three types of weathering. जैसे सेडिमेंट्री रॉक्स के तीन टाइप्स है, फिजिकली फॉर्म्ड सेडिमेंट्री रॉक, केमिकली फॉर्म्ड एंड बायोलॉजिकली फॉर्म्ड सेडिमेंट्री रॉक. सो सिमिलरली फिजिकल वेदरिंग टूटने से, एनी रॉक व्हेन इट इज ब्रोकन इट इज फिजिकल वेदरिंग. एनी रॉक जब वो सड़ जाता है इट इज एन केमिकल वेदरिंग. एंड इफ एनी रॉक इज ब्रोकन और डिकम्पोज्ड, डिकम्पोज्ड मतलब सड़ जाना, ब्रोकन मीन्स डिसइंटीग्रेशन. दिस इज द वर्ड फॉर फिजिकल and this is the word for chemical. But due to the human activities or due to animals or due to plants or due to any living organism, then it is known as the biological weathering. Biological weathering is occurring in your house every day. Dustbin में, but the best example is अगर आपके घर में चूहा है, what it is doing, he is breaking the walls. तो उसके बाद वो ये डिसाइड करता है कि नहीं अब ये मैं उठा के पहले नदी में डाल के आ जाऊंगा, मलबा जो बचा है दैट इज वॉट एवर द ब्रोकन पार्टिकल्स, एंड देन आई विल एंटर द हाउस. अगर चूहा ऐसे करता तो दैट इज इरोजन. अगर वो सेडिमेंट्स उठा के पहले कहीं डिपॉजिट करता एंड देन आपके घर में घुसता दैट इज इरोजन. ही ब्रेक्स दिस एंड ही एंटर्स द हाउस. सो वेदरिंग is a good thing also for us human beings. Why? Burrowing animals. What the burrowing animals do? They burrow, they make holes, and by this process they help in mixing the top layer of the soil with the bottom layer of the soil. Top layer of the soil is rich in oxygen because it is in the contact with the air. Bottom layer of the soil is not. इसीलिए the mixing ऊपर का सॉइल नीचे, नीचे का सॉइल ऊपर, रिजल्ट्स इनटू इंक्रीज इन द फर्टिलिटी ऑफ द सॉइल. सी इसीलिए हम प्लाविंग करते हैं. व्हाई वी डू प्लाविंग इन द एग्रीकल्चरल लैंड? सो दैट वी मिक्स द टॉप लेयर एंड द बॉटम लेयर ऑफ द सॉइल. सो दिस इज कोर. फिर करंट अफेयर से आता है द कंसेप्ट ऑफ जीरो टिलेज. ये आजकल क्यों ये कह रहे हैं कि प्लाविंग मत करो, don't do the ploughing. What is zero tillage? That is a part of an current affairs. But remember, ploughing is also a kind of an weathering, because the farmer, he breaks the rocks and he just mixes the rock in the same manner. It will come under the influence of biological weathering. So first we'll start with the physical weathering. Yes?
सर अगर हम केव्स बना रहे हैं रॉक्स में तो वो भी वेदरिंग का ही टाइम इज इट कैन बी और
वो डिपेंड करेगा ना वेयर यू आर. वो केव्स बना के व्हाट यू डू विद द सेडिमेंट्स. अगर उसको नीचे फेंक दोगे तो इरोजन. यू कैन नॉट टेक दैट एन एग्जाम्पल ह्यूमन बींग्स के लिए, बिकॉज इट डिपेंड्स ऑन द मटेरियल. सो ह्यूमन बींग्स आर नॉट, बट ह्यूमन बींग्स के लिए द बेस्ट वेदरिंग इज माइनिंग एक्टिविटी. बेस्ट वेदरिंग इज रोड कंस्ट्रक्शन. रोड कंस्ट्रक्शन, what it does, it breaks the surrounding mountains because of dynamite explosion, vibration. Example is power horns. Power horns are the horns, that is the जो power horns जो cities में use होते हैं. Some often हनी सिंह का follower will use that power horn उसके गाड़ी में. But you do that in Uttarakhand, it is banned. You do that in Himachal, it is banned. क्यों? Power horns, if they are continuously used, they will break the rocks. After all, it is energy only. It is going and hitting the rocks and coming back. So we have seen कि power horns बजाया and triggering the landslide, and the entire part has gone down. So therefore the power horns are banned. That is an weathering, a triggering. You are not breaking it, but you are making the particles loose, and ultimately it will aid the mass movement. Why the power horns are banned? Because ये trigger mechanism है. There are numerous instances कि a city person who goes for vacation, they don't understand the hill region ka topography, they don't understand that region. Traffic jam hote hi just like cities, horn continuously bajaya, ultimately it has triggered the landslide, pura wo traffic hi leke chala gaya. So that is the thing which is happening. But we'll do the physical weathering. So physical weathering, this is mechanical disintegration. This is the mechanical disintegration of rocks, disintegration of rocks in situ, in situ, in situ, caused due to differential expansion and contraction of rocks, caused due to the differential expansion and contraction of the rocks. You will understand what is this differential expansion. मतलब one part of the rock will expand, the other part will contract. इसलिए different expansion and the contraction. जो continuously expand हो रहा है, it will become loose and ultimately it will break down. Do the weathering only from the notes. Types. First, so before we write the types of weathering, we have first take this factors affecting the weathering. Then we'll do this physical types. Factors which will affect the weathering. This is very important, factors affecting weathering. Prepare this as a question also for the mains as well as for prelims. What are the different factors that affect the weathering? Now what will be the factors? You only tell me kya factors honge affecting weathering. Rainfall, after that landslides, temperature, winds, glaciers. Now tell me rainfall, if there is a rock which is half made up of limestone, half made up of basalt, so kisko zyada affect karega? Limestone ko. So the one of the first factor that is affecting the weathering is nature of the rocks. This is the most important factor affecting the weathering, nature of the rocks. So this involves the mineral composition of the rocks, type of the rock, structure of the rock, that is whether it is a well jointed rock, or compact rock, well jointed rocks or sedimentary rocks. Next point, sedimentary rocks are easily eroded and weathered. दोनों में sedimentary rocks are there. Sedimentary rocks are easily eroded and weathered. and weathered in comparison to hard metamorphic rocks. In comparison to the hard metamorphic rocks. In comparison to the hard metamorphic rocks. Next point, in the same nature, joints act as a lines of weakness. Joints act as lines of weakness, which may cause the rocks to easily expand and contract, which may cause the rocks to easily expand and contract, thus accelerating the rate of weathering. Thus accelerating the rate of weathering. Thus accelerating the rate of weathering. Now take another rock, that is the limestone. Take another point. Limestone, can it be a strong rock also? Or will it always be a weak rock?
Yes, it will be stronger in desert area.
Limestone will be a strong rock in the dry conditions. But the same limestone will become very weak because it will get easily dissolved in water in the wet conditions. Basalt is also a strong rock in the relatively drier conditions. But agar wet hai conditions, so it easily breaks to form the black soil. Similarly, the rocks, कोई rock सड़ जाएगा, कोई नहीं सड़ेगा. Can I say it will depend upon temperature and humidity? अगर जिस region में humidity is greater and the temperature is greater, वहाँ पे chemical weathering will dominate. On other hand, desert regions में chemical weathering होगा या नहीं होगा? In the desert regions, will there be chemical weathering? Means, will the chemical weathering will be dominant या mechanical weathering will be dominant? In the desert regions, mechanical weathering. Because why mechanical weathering? Take an example of what is mechanical weathering. Take an example of this glass. It is very hot, for example, and I suddenly pour a very cold water in this. क्या होगा? The glass will crack. Why? Because when it is hot, it is in the expanded state, and जैसे it comes in the contact with cold water, it suddenly contracts. So when it suddenly contracts, the molecules में there will be cracks. So that is a physical weathering. So similarly in the desert regions, दिन में बहुत ज़्यादा गर्मी, there is very high heat, और शाम को आंधी आ सकती है. There can be thunderstorms, and suddenly the rocks will contract and they will crack. या take an example of monsoon type of climate. 3-4 दिन से बारिश है. अब after some days, starting from today, the temperature is going to increase. There will be high heat and very high humidity. It will cause chemical weathering. Rocks सड़ना शुरू हो जाएंगे because heat and humidity is there. Let the October come. As soon as the October comes, और September के end में, there will be only heat. एक भी बारिश नहीं होगी. At least in this part, there will be no rainfall because monsoon has withdrawn from this part from 15th of September. 15th of September is the last date for monsoon in this part of India. As the monsoon has gone, skies have become clear क्योंकि ऊपर बादल नहीं है. As the skies are clear, the sunlight is easily reaching the ground. As the sunlight is reaching the ground, it will heat up the rocks. But because of heating, कभी-कभी शाम में there is a sudden आंधी आएगी. और this is the same phenomena which occurs in the month of April and May. दिन में इतनी ज़्यादा गर्मी कि आप कहते हो शाम को 100% बारिश होने वाली है. Why is that? Because you know one basic law of climate, that air has to rise upwards for rainfall. When will the air rise upwards? Convectional currents. कब होंगे convectional currents? When there is a heating. So इसलिए आप कहते हो कि गर्मी ज़्यादा है तो बारिश के chances ज़्यादा है. Because you know that heating will cause convectional currents, air will go up and then it will give rainfall. So suppose that air goes up and gives rainfall, तो suddenly जो rock है expanded state में वो crack होता है. इसलिए you see even in Delhi जो areas है poor construction का, उन buildings में बहुत ज़्यादा cracks है because expansion and contraction. वो हो गया physical weathering. So can I say the single most important factor which will determine the weathering is, rather than the nature of the rocks, is climate. Is the climate. Climate is the single most important factor. Climate is the single most important factor. Climate is the single most important factor which determines the intensity, as well as the type of weathering. Example 1, in the equatorial regions, as there is high heat and humidity throughout the year, chemical weathering dominates. In the equatorial regions, as there is high heat and humidity throughout the year, chemical weathering dominates. कौन सा है equatorial regions? 0 to 10 degree north and 0 to 10 degree south. Next point, in the regions of deserts, उसी में climate में, in the regions of deserts which are located in the subtropical high pressure belt, कौन सा वेदरिंग डोमिनेट करेगा डेजर्ट्स में? मैकेनिकल, फिजिकल या केमिकल? फिजिकल वेदरिंग डोमिनेट्स. Physical weathering dominates. In the monsoon lands of the world, or in the monsoon type of climate, कौन सा वेदरिंग डोमिनेट करेगा? बायोलॉजिकल भूल जाओ. बायोलॉजिकल इज एन काइंड ऑफ केमिकल एज वेल एज फिजिकल. इन दोनों में मुझे बताओ हमारे इसमें कौन सा डोमिनेट करेगा? वाई? हाँ, ये एक रीज़न है. बारिश कौन से सीज़न में आती है? जून, जुलाई, अगस्त, सितंबर. उसके बाद नवंबर, दिसंबर में हीट है, थोड़ी बहुत हीट है, बट बारिश नहीं है. जनवरी में आजकल बारिश नहीं है, पर टिपिकली पहले बारिश होनी चाहिए थी, बट हीट नहीं है. उसके बाद आता है मार्च, अप्रैल, मई, जहाँ पे सिर्फ इतनी ज़्यादा हीट है कि द टेम्परेचर विल रीच 45 to 48 डिग्री सेल्सियस. नॉर्थ वेस्ट इंडिया जो ये है, यहाँ पे द एवरेज टेम्परेचर इज समवेयर अराउंड 45 डिग्री सेल्सियस. हाईएस्ट टेम्परेचर गोज टू 48-50 डिग्री सेल्सियस. राजस्थान में 52 डिग्री सेल्सियस, जो गवर्नमेंट क्लेम करता है 52 डिग्री सेल्सियस. एग्जाम्पल इज लास्ट ईयर 2016 कि राजस्थान के रेत पे पुट अ प्रेशर कुकर, राइस पक जाता था. गेहूं रखो, रोटी बन जाती थी. गेहूं मतलब आटा रखो, रोटी बन जाती थी. दैट इज व्हाट इज द हाई हीट इन दिस रीजन. सो कौन सा वेदरिंग विल डोमिनेट? Physical weathering. So remember, monsoon is in kind of a region where both physical and chemical weathering dominates. Now take down this in the form of answer, that is, in the monsoon type of climate, which has dominance of both dry summer season, March to May, and wet summer season, June to September. Both physical and chemical weathering, dominates respectively. Dominates respectively means dry summers में physical weathering, wet summers में अभी right now which weathering is going to dominate? Chemical weathering is dominating. In the temperate latitudes, in the temperate regions, physical weathering dominates. But this physical weathering is due to frost action. Frost action means freeze and thaw action of water. Freeze and thaw action of water. Freeze, jam jana. Thaw, melting of water. So whenever the water is frozen, it will expand, enlarge the cracks. दिन में फिर से temperature बढ़ेगा, the water will melt. Because of melting, it will go inside, deep inside the crack. Ultimately, again it will freeze, and thus it will break the rocks along the joints. So freeze and thaw action of water. And lastly, in the polar regions, कौन सा weathering is going to dominate? Which weathering is going to dominate? Physical weathering, chemical weathering, या कोई भी नहीं. Remember, in the polar regions, especially polar हम कह रहे हैं, permafrost है. Permafrost means it is permanently under snow. As it is permanently under the snow, the top snow layer of a snow will protect the lower rocks from getting eroded and both weathered. इसलिए both physical and chemical weathering is least. Chemical weathering तो हो ही नहीं सकता. ठंडियों में कुछ सड़ता नहीं है. Right? So chemical weathering will not be there. Even in physical weathering, winds chalegi, there will be water ka movement, but ice or snow will protect the lower rocks from getting eroded and weathered. So remember, in the polar regions, due to the permafrost action, due to the permafrost action. Both physical and chemical weathering are least. Both physical and chemical weathering is less. Both physical and chemical weathering is less. This is because the permanent ice cover will protect the lower rocks. Permanent ice cover will protect the lower rocks. Chemical weathering हम तो बताया किया ही नहीं है अभी तक. And you can draw this diagram. ये means का क्वेश्चन है प्रॉपर. You can draw this diagram. आंसर अब तक खत्म नहीं हुआ है. फैक्टर्स सेकंड फैक्टर में you can draw this diagram. हो रहा है. वेदरिंग और इरोशन दोनों बढ़ रहा है. हम कंक्लूजन में लिखेंगे. You can use the stencil in the exam. Exam में you can use the stencil to make the circles etc. Can I continue? What is this diagram? This diagram is the climatic belts of the world. When we'll do the climatology, इसको हम कहेंगे tropics, इसको हम कहेंगे subtropics, temperate, frigid zones. ये है इक्वेटोरियल लो प्रेशर बेल्ट. मॉनसून में हम इसी बेल्ट को 0 to 10 degree north and 10 degree south को हम कहेंगे ITCZ, and then we'll see that ITCZ will keep on shifting. Subtropical high pressure belt, we'll call this as horse latitudes. The subpolar low pressure belt, we'll call this as the belt of fronts, and this is an polar high pressure belt. हमेशा wind इसके बीच से यहाँ के बीच जाएगी. It is trade winds, westerlies, easterlies. So this are how we are divided into different climatic zones. We are located somewhere here because the Tropic of Cancer 23.5 goes exactly from Gujarat, Rajasthan, then Madhya Pradesh, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Bengal, Tripura and Mizoram. और मानसून टाइप ऑफ क्लाइमेट वर्ल्ड में कहीं नहीं है एक्सेप्ट साउथ एशिया, साउथ ईस्ट एशिया एंड ऑस्ट्रेलिया. बाकी you will not find monsoon type of climate anywhere in the world. And याद रखना, don't go by the normal usage. Monsoon मतलब बारिश नहीं. Monsoon does not mean rainfall. India has a monsoon type of climate. हमने गलती से मीडिया ने यूज़ करती है कि monsoon is going to come to India. मानसून, इसलिए हमें लगता है मानसून मतलब बारिश, नहीं. वी हैव मानसून टाइप ऑफ क्लाइमेट थ्रू आउट द ईयर. राइट नाउ वी आर अंडर द इन्फ्लुएंस ऑफ साउथ वेस्ट मानसून, जो बारिश लाती है. आफ्टर सम डेज, आफ्टर द मंथ ऑफ अक्टूबर, वी विल कम अंडर द इन्फ्लुएंस ऑफ अक्टूबर हीट, and उसके बाद we will come under the influence of northeast monsoon. Northeast monsoon will not give rainfall in any part of India except Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu को it is going to give rainfall. So monsoon का मतलब उर्दू word है, Arabic word है मौसम. मौसम बदलता है, so any wind in which there is a change in the direction, 180-degree change in the direction, it is known as monsoon. So it has derived from the word मौसम. थर्ड, बायोटिक फैक्टर्स. गिर जाएगा वहां पे. The biotic factors. Now, biotic factors means flora and fauna. So, tell me, do we protect the soil from getting eroded, or we are the cause of erosion? How? How we protect? When human beings are doing deforestation or plantation? More. अगर dominant क्या है इसमें? Deforestation. So deforestation, therefore the soil is exposed and therefore it will start breaking into the particles. Now before we write proper thing here, plants will result into weathering, yeah, it will protect the soil from getting weathered and eroded. Now see, if this is a rock and if this is a tree which is coming, the tree with its root system will cause breaking of the rocks. So ये roots जो deep जा रहे हैं inside, they will break. So tell me now, and breaking of the rocks मतलब it is an kind of an weathering. Or you have seen a tree which comes on the top of a building. So it is going to break them into different particles. Generally दिखता है old forts में, क्या है वो? Weathering ही हो रहा है. So the trees, that is flora, will protect the weathering or cause the weathering, or both? Why both? What is happening here? It is breaking. It is breaking. But after breaking, this plants, this roots will hold the soil together and it will not cause further weathering and erosion. Plus क्या होगा? Because of उसका extensive canopy, the sunlight will be reduced, and because the sunlight will be reduced, वो differential expansion and contraction कम हो जाएगा. So remember, flora is going to both a factor as well as a protector of weathering. So biotic factors, the weathering caused by flora and fauna, is known as biological weathering. Is known as biological weathering or the biotic weathering. Flora means plants and fauna means animals. Next, plants through its root system will cause breaking of the rocks, through its root system will cause breaking of the rocks, and thus will aid in weathering, but the same plants will stop further erosion and weathering. Will stop further erosion and weathering by holding the soil together. By holding the soil together. Thus we can say, plants are both the factors and the protectors of weathering. Factors and the protectors of weathering. नेक्स्ट पॉइंट, ये सारा ये आंसर इसके लिए भी बन जाएगा, बायोलॉजिकल वेदरिंग के लिए भी. सो द नेक्स्ट पॉइंट, माइक्रो ऑर्गेनिजम्स. earthworms, lichens. What is lichen? It is a fungus and algae. Lichens, etc. secrete chemical acids, secrete chemicals or acids causing chemical weathering. Microorganisms such as the bacteria, lichens, earthworms secrete chemicals, acids, thus causing chemical weathering. Earthworm is known as friend of a farmer. क्यों? साइल को it helps in burrowing, ploughing. इतना छोटा, how will it help in burrowing and ploughing? That is, it will secrete some kind of chemicals, excreta, and it will keep on breaking the soil. क्या है वो? Chemical weathering का ही एक part है, and thus the soil will be enriched by humus or by some of the required chemicals. Lichens, क्या करते हैं lichens? Lichens will secrete the acids, and thus the rock will break into formation of soil. After the formation of soil, पहले बाद में grass आएंगे, ग्रास आने के बाद फिर ट्रीज आएंगे, एंड ट्रीज आने के बाद फिर ह्यूमंस आएंगे. जब तक लाइकेंस नहीं है तब तक सॉइल नहीं फॉर्म होगा, क्योंकि बाकी के जगह पत्थर के ऊपर ट्रीज कैनॉट कम, ग्रास कैनॉट कम. इट इज द लाइकेंस एंड मॉस विच विल कम एंड मेक द ग्राउंड गुड फॉर द, that is make that stone break into soil, and soil then will result into supporting the vegetation. इसीलिए हम ये टॉपिक एनवायरमेंट इकोलॉजी में करेंगे, known as ecological succession. Lichens and moss. So lichens आपके घर में भी है. That is, you take a keep the roti or bread outside. सबसे पहले fungus आता है, whitish in color. Now जब तक nutrition है उसमें, that fungus is able to survive. But after 3-4 days, nutrition खत्म होने लगता है उसका. So fungus gets into symbiotic association with algae, because fungus cannot do photosynthesis. Algae can do photosynthesis, and that fungus starts turning green in color. So that is what is lichen. You take that bread, put it in the soil, water it, give it some kind of an, the खाद दो उसको, give it some kind of an fertilizer. उस bread में से after some time कोई पेड़ बाहर निकलेगा. जरूरी नहीं गेहूं का ही पेड़ बाहर निकलेगा. Any जो pollen है in the atmosphere, any one can come. That is what is ecological succession, and this is what we are writing here. They will help in breaking down of the big strong minerals. So उसको हम environment में करेंगे. This is known as mineralization, this is known as humification. This all is a part of an weathering. Next point, burrowing and digging animals. Burrowing and digging animals. Burrowing and digging animals. Mix the top layer of the soils. Mix the top layer of the soil. Burrowing and digging animals mix the top layer of the soil and thus help in increasing the fertility of the soil. Thus help in increasing the fertility of the soil. Help in increasing the fertility of the soil. And last point, modern human being. Modern human being means economic man, economic and industrial man. We have gone through 4 stages. Tribal, that is hunters and food gatherers. उसके बाद nomadic herders. उसके बाद agricultural cultivators. उसके बाद industrial, modern economic man. So it is the modern economic man rather than anyone else. So the modern economic man has accelerated the rate of weathering. Has accelerated the rate of weathering. Has accelerated the rate of weathering by constructing roads in the hilly regions, blasting the mountains with dynamites, comma, large scale deforestation, comma, changing the land use pattern, मीन्स जो पहले फॉरेस्ट लैंड थी फिर बन गई एग्रीकल्चर लैंड, बाद में की एग्रीकल्चर लैंड अब बन गई अर्बन लैंड, बिल्डिंग्स, कंक्रीट, जंगल. सो एग्जांपल इज दिल्ली इटसेल्फ. द आउटर दिल्ली वंस वाज विलेजेस, दे वेर फॉरेस्ट के बाद दे बिकेम विलेजेस, अब वो बन गए हैं सिटीज, अर्बन डेवलपमेंट. सो दिस इज व्हाट इज द चेंज इन द लैंड यूज पैटर्न. फुल स्टॉप. This process has accelerated the rate of environmental degradation, as well as large scale mass movements, such as landslides. Example, you can take any landslide from your history. Example इसका Kerala floods. Example can be इसका the Uttarakhand landslide tragedy. So ये क्यों हो रहा है? Because we have made the rock very loose by the artificial weathering. So जब मैंने आपको example दिया था, to make 1 centimeter of soil, nature requires 70 years. We can destroy that 1 centimeter of soil in some seconds. So nature जितना हमें supply कर रहा है उससे ज़्यादा हम degrade कर रहे हैं. For example, every year due to forest fires or due to some natural activity, 59 billion gigatons of 49 billion gigatons of carbon dioxide is released in the atmosphere. So ये natural process है global warming का. But if you do not disturb the trees etc., the new trees which are growing or the photosynthesis make sure that 51 billion gigatons of carbon dioxide is removed from the atmosphere. हम क्या कर रहे हैं? हम ये trees को cut कर रहे हैं. And obviously therefore environmental degradation. So you can see इसका impact in the surrounding regions. Heavy rainfall, floods, droughts. India में आज भी drought है. इन सेंट्रल पार्ट ऑफ इंडिया फ्लड्स भी हो गया, उसके जस्ट नीचे केरला में. अगले साल पता चलेगा कि देयर इज अ ड्रॉट इन केरला. सो वी नेवर नो. दिस ईयर इज अ ला नीना ईयर, इसलिए वी हैव बीन ब्लेस्ड विद द रेनफॉल. नेक्स्ट ईयर शुड नॉट बी अ अल नीनो ईयर, बट बिकॉज ऑफ ग्लोबल वार्मिंग what is happening is the El Nino is coming up frequently. So next year can be El Nino year. अगर El Nino year नहीं है तो next year can be Indian Ocean dipole वाला year. ट्रॉपिकल साइक्लोन ओखी कभी गुजरात में जाता नहीं, इस साल गुजरात चला गया. द साइक्लोन्स डू नॉट क्रॉस तमिलनाडु, दे डू नॉट हिट केरला, केरला में इट वेंट. सो दिस इज कॉजिंग लार्ज स्केल डिजास्टर्स. एंड वन ऑफ द रीजन ये जो जोग्राफिकल डिजास्टर्स है, लैंडस्लाइड्स एक्सेट्रा, इज कॉज ड्यू टू द वेदरिंग. उत्तराखंड ट्रेजेडी, सो मच लॉस ऑफ लाइफ एंड प्रॉपर्टी. क्या है इसका रिस्पॉन्स गवर्नमेंट का? गवर्नमेंट का रिस्पॉन्स है कि और अच्छे रोड्स बनाओ in Uttarakhand. 4 laning of highways is being done. Rather than this, they should have stopped illegal construction of hotels in Uttarakhand. So that is the cause. We are not looking at the cause. We are making now big road कि रास्ता बह ना जाए, so that there is more pilgrimage in Uttarakhand, etc. But उससे क्या हुआ? 700 देवदार trees have been cut for every 1 kilometer. मिनिमम 700. अब 700 जो ट्रीज़ है, गवर्नमेंट से इसकी हम अफॉरेस्टेशन करेंगे. बट ये जो 700 ट्रीज़ जो थे देवदार के, उनका मिनिमम एज था 300 ईयर्स. द 300 ईयर ओल्ड ट्रीज़ थे. अब जो नया ट्री हम करेंगे, will it be able to remove that same amount of carbon dioxide as a 300-year-old tree? No. When the new tree is growing, it gives out more carbon dioxide rather than photosynthesis. Respiration is more rather than photosynthesis. So ये जो है बातें, this we do not do. And then loss of life. More important than loss of life, चलो इंडिया जैसे कंट्री में loss of life is a blessing in disguise, you can say, because population resource खत्म हो रहा है. Optimum population की तरफ हम जा सकते हैं. So, but rather than loss of life, loss of infrastructure, rather loss of money, and rather than the loss of life, loss of young population, that is causing a problem. So ultimately, the human resource of India, social capital of India, quality of life in India is suffering. So this you will see only ये जो biotic factors है human being का, only in the developing nations. European people know how to live in proper alliance with the nature. Americans don't understand that, and we are blindly copying the Americans. We should copy the lifestyle of Europeans. They will never go against the nature. उनका जो consumerism है, even that is blessed, that is along with the nature. Scandinavian countries, अभी हमने देखा, Iceland geothermal energy लेता है. Norway, it makes hydroelectric power. So we are not that case. We do not live in alliance with the nature. Old people used to live in the alliance with the nature, and इसलिए इतने problems नहीं थे. अब इंडिया में the 35% increase in the rate of cancers. What is this? This all is the climate change ka part. One of the reason for cancer is plastic has increased in your life. क्या है plastic in reality? Plastic is a byproduct of petrochemical industry. Plastic is a byproduct of petrochemical industry. हमारे जैसे hot country में plastic should be banned because plastic will give out evaporation and उसमें gases बाहर आएंगे. So जब आप गर्म पानी रखते हो plastic के bottle में, obviously that poisonous fumes goes. जब आप tiffin लाते हो गर्म in the plastic, obviously that poisonous fumes goes and it goes in our body. And these are non-biodegradable. So आपके body के अंदर वो पूरा plastic जमा रहता है. And over the period of time, ultimately the body gives way and causes cancer. So this is what is happening in the developing nations of the world. Human beings, we are digging our own graves. over the period of time. The only thing is कि हम फ्यूचर जनरेशन की ग्रेव डिग कर रहे हैं, इतना जल्दी इम्पैक्ट नहीं दे रहा है नेचर का, बट ओवर द पीरियड ऑफ टाइम दैट विल कम. सी इट विल कम इन दिल्ली इटसेल्फ कि बाहर निकलने से पहले ऑक्सीजन मास्क. सो विल बी ऑर्डरिंग द ऑक्सीजन मास्क फ्रॉम अमेजॉन इन सम फ्यू ईयर्स इफ वी कीप ऑन डूइंग द सेम थिंग. जब तक ऑक्सीजन मास्क नहीं पहनोगे बाहर जा नहीं पाओगे. एंड this has been shown by the government of India also. There is an advertisement which used to come during the pollution ka days. A family is sitting for a dinner. The mother cannot go out. Mother cannot go out even though she is not well. She has to go to doctor. बट उसको कोई लेके नहीं जा सकता क्योंकि सुबह फुटबॉल खेलने के लिए उसके बेटे ने थोड़ा ज़्यादा ऑक्सीजन यूज़ किया था उसके मास्क में से. एंड दिस इज़ व्हाट रियलिटी विल बी देयर. Environmental degradation. This is what is meant by the environmental degradation. Now we will come to the types of weathering.
But how can it be stopped? Because we are anyways a developing nation. We stop all these.
This is not development, this is growth. Development has some different definition. We are using it as a development. What do you mean by development? So this is just growth. It has nothing to do with development. वो हो गया sustainable development. Development is including the quality, increasing the quality of life. This is blind growth. And इसलिए greater gap between rich and poor. So जंगल को तोड़ के वहाँ पे कंक्रीट का बिल्डिंग बना दिया एंड वी कॉल दिस एज डेवलपमेंट. देन एरेबल लैंड कम होता है इसलिए इंजेक्शन देते हैं हम एंड वी कॉल दिस एज अ डेवलपमेंट. सो दिस इज नॉट अ डेवलपमेंट. डेवलपमेंट का डेफिनेशन हैज टू बी चेंज्ड. बट सी ये सब बोलने के लिए अच्छा है बट इन रियलिटी व्हाट इज द बिगेस्ट कर्स इन इंडिया इज पॉपुलेशन. वंस दिस पॉपुलेशन इज स्टेबलाइज्ड so everything will be there. So the problem in India is population. So but democracy है, कल गवर्नमेंट रूल लेके आएगी आपको 2 बच्चे ही होने चाहिए. चाइना ने तो एक ही कर दिया. तो क्या होगा? जंतर मंतर पे लोग आएंगे. There will be 2 groups of people. डिबेट चलेगी न्यूज़ चैनल पे. होगा कुछ नहीं. अल्टीमेटली गवर्नमेंट will remove that. Then there will be a next election year. So government cannot do. You see आजकल जितना भी है, next year is an election year. So negative positive things about the government we are not talking. But जो जितने भी fringe players है वो अब अपनी दादागिरी दिखाना शुरू करेंगे गवर्नमेंट पे because they know कि next year election year पे government is not going to take the risk. And therefore हर एक की मांग पूरी की जाएगी no matter what is there in the election year. I guess we have written the definition of physical weathering. That is the disintegration of rocks in situ, mechanical breaking of the rocks in situ. So the first kind of an physical weathering is block disintegration. Block disintegration. Occurs in the well jointed rock. Understand this process, then we'll write. So this is a kind of an rock which is there, and it is an example of an well jointed rock. This is how the joints can be. Now, in the temperate latitudes, consider the first case in the temperate latitudes. It is an example of an physical weathering. In the temperate latitudes, water, रात में there is a enough amount of water in the atmosphere, especially in the winter season. Why? Because in the winter season, जो भी water है, it will enter through the inside this gaps or the joints. And during the night time, जैसे इंडिया में भी होता है ड्यूरिंग द विंटर सीजन, ये वाटर विल गेट फ्रोजन. इंडिया में ड्यू या ओस होती है, नॉट नेसेसरली पाला और फ्रॉस्ट, बट इट इज कोल्ड इनफ कि अमाउंट ऑफ वाटर वेपर दैट इज प्रेजेंट इन द एटमॉस्फेयर इट कूल्स एंड देयर आर वाटर ड्रॉपलेट्स. कंडेंसेशन का प्रोसेस है ये. दैट इज outside this glass, why there are water droplets? Why there are water droplets? Outside this bottle, why there are water droplets? Because अंदर का पानी cold है. There is a water vapor which is present in this room. As soon as it is coming into the contact with the glass or the bottle, there is condensation happening. And that is why water droplets are there. Apply this to nature. In the nature there is water vapor. The rocks become very cold during the night time, and as soon as this water comes into the contact with the rocks, it will form water droplets. Ab, because it is in the higher latitudes, रात में और ज़्यादा temperature is going to decrease, and this water droplets will get converted into ice. And because of it getting converted into ice, when it is water droplets, हम English में कहेंगे dew. When it gets converted into ice, we will call this as frost. Hindi, os and pala. So, when it gets converted into frost, ice results into expansion of volume. So there will be expansion of volume because of it getting converted into solid. There will be expansion of volume, and because of the expansion of volume, there will be increase in the cracks. So this joints will start getting converted into cracks. The same process is going to repeat every day. Because of the increase in the cracks, can I say now the water will go up to a greater depth? It will get solidified. The same process, and thus over the period of time this cracks will increase to cause disintegration of this rock. Maybe ये crack ऐसे increase होगा, and this rock will get, if this crack is increased, अब ये rock ऊपर रहेगा? Not necessarily. It may slide down, and when it slides downwards, it will slide in the form of a big block. Or if this crack is increased, this entire rock may get separated from the main rock in the form of big blocks, and therefore we will call this as a block disintegration. Mostly occurs in the higher latitudes. Why? Because of the freeze and thaw action of water. Are you understanding what is happening here? Cracks mein water is going, it is expanding due to freezing, cracks is expanding, and ultimately the cracks, when they expand, the rocks will separate in the form of big blocks. So even you go to the states of India जहाँ पे there is ice, Himachal, Uttarakhand, Jammu, Kashmir, you will find commonly such kind of rocks, big rocks which are there in the form of blocks. What is this? This is an block disintegration. White color के rocks हैं क्योंकि वो limestone dominate करता है उसमें. So this is an block disintegration of the rocks. Why block disintegration? Due to freeze and thaw action of the water. So can I say 2-3 things here? It will occur in the well jointed rocks. Compact rocks में नहीं होगा ये. It will occur in the well jointed rocks. Secondly, it occurs in the higher latitudes especially during the winter season, and this is occurring due to the freeze and thaw action of the water. अब similarly ऐसा rock है, and it has this kind of a joint. The upper layer of the rock which is there will get more sunlight as compared to the inner part of the rock जो नीचे है in the desert region. So दिन में it is in the super expanded state because of high amount of insolation. But रात में कोई भी desert में the temperature drastically falls. Consider an example. Jaisalmer may be very hot than Delhi during the daytime, but the same Jaisalmer is colder than Delhi during the night time. Why? Because this is the property of a desert. That is extreme range of temperature. Days are very hot, nights are very cold. Delhi में ऐसा नहीं है. Can someone tell me why? Yes, sand gets but why? Because water vapor is a greenhouse gas. Water vapor is going to trap the heat. And desert में क्यों deserts क्यों है? क्योंकि water vapor नहीं है, इसलिए there is no moisture. इसलिए this water vapor which is present in the room is a greenhouse gas. अभी कुछ दिनों के बाद फिर से गर्मी क्यों बढ़ेगी? Water vapor has been given by enough rainfall. But if there is no rainfall, only insolation, ये जितना भी heat is there that is lost by the surroundings, it is going to be trapped by the water vapor. So because of this absence of water vapor, there is a daily range of temperature is very high. So expansion, contraction, expansion, contraction. Ultimately, this rock may break. Expansion and contraction will happen along the lines of weakness. So this rock may break in the form of different blocks, and we will call this as an block disintegration. Obviously, ऐसे ऊपर नहीं रहेगा, वो नीचे गिर जाएगा on this part. So this is block disintegration, but for our exam, this is more important. So you can take down and then draw this diagram. Block disintegration occurs in the well jointed rocks. It occurs in well jointed rocks, especially in the higher latitudes. Especially in the higher latitudes. During the winter season or cold season, during the winter season or the cold season, water enters the cracks or the joints of the rocks. Water enters the cracks or the joints of the rocks. During the night time or due to the drop in the temperature. During the night time or due to the drop in the temperature. Due to the drop in the temperature. The water freezes. The water freezes. Causing expansion in the volume. Causing expansion in the volume, and thus increasing the cracks. Thus increasing the cracks. This process of freeze and thaw action of water, this process of freeze and thaw action of water, of freeze and thaw. Freeze means barf jamna and thaw means warmth, melting. परसों के हिंदू का है, is there thaw in the ties between India and Maldives? Thawing means, that is, thawing means melting. So इनके बीच में enmity थी, वो is it melting now? So thawing why? Because हमने Maldives has allowed कि हम हाँ चलो इंडिया का एक हेलीकॉप्टर रख लेंगे. So the thawing of the ties. Thawing means warmth, and generally human beings में warmth means friendship. Cold means opposite. So thaw means warmth. So the freeze and thaw action of water. Freeze and thaw action of water. This process of freeze and thaw action of water occurs every day, occurs every day, enlarging the cracks or the joints, which ultimately leads to separation of blocks, separation of blocks. Hence it is known as block disintegration. You can draw this diagram. हिंदू में ये आर्टिकल आया था थॉइंग, और मिंट में उससे भी ज़्यादा अच्छा आर्टिकल था. उसने ये दिया था कि मालदीव्स को इंडिया ने दी गाय एंड पंचायती राज और ये सब जो थे, चाइना ने दिया $98 बिलियन. तो किसको सपोर्ट करेगा? चाइना. सो इट वाज टेलिंग इंडियन गवर्नमेंट, रादर देन गिविंग दिस थिंग्स सच एज सॉफ्ट स्किल्स, योगा, cow, give some proper money to them.
So, but yesterday there was article ki India should use its soft power for Southeast Asian because we don't have that much resources to invest. Like
Yeah, that is also, that is we,
Subramanian Swami tweeted that we should invade Mali.
he's another great man, so I don't want to. मीन्स मालदीव्स को इन्वाइट करो और चाइना हमको अरुणाचल में इन्वाइट करेगा. Now take an example. Have you finished drawing this? Take an example of the crystalline rocks or the grains है जिनमें rocks में generally crystalline rocks. Now unlike this rock, it is compact rock. It does not have joints. But what it has crystals, some like granite. Now if you look at the granite, some crystals are lighter in color, some crystals are darker in color. That is, there is a change in the color of the crystals. So कोई भी crystalline rocks में और granular rocks में जिसमें grains है, this is compact rock, there are some of the crystals which are much lighter, some of the crystals which are much darker. Now which crystals is going to absorb more insolation, sunlight? The lighter crystals या darker crystals? Darker. The darker crystals are going to absorb more sunlight, and because they are going to absorb more sunlight, क्या होगा? Can I say they will be more heated? And because they will be more heated, they will expand more. So ये process चलता रहेगा, that is the expansion and contraction. The black color crystals will expand at much faster rate in my diagram as compared to blue, as compared to red, and सबसे कम expansion होगा white color crystals का, if there are any white color crystals. So this differential expansion and contraction of the same rock, can I make, we say, will make this part of the rocks loose. जो black color crystals है वो expand and contract करेंगे, and thus they will become loose, right? Only the dark color part, crystals का part will expand, contract, as compared to the other parts, and therefore it will become loose, and once it become loose, ये जितने भी black color के crystals है, they will start falling down in the form of the grains or in the form of small grains. So all this black color का crystals which have, you have seen this rocks also जिसको ऐसे लगता है holes है, किसी ने pin मारा है. So that is an example of an granular disintegration. Why it is occurring? Can I say it is occurring because of differential expansion of dark and light color crystals? The dark color crystal will absorb more heat, they will expand more as compared to the lighter color. Due to this differential expansion and contraction of dark versus light color crystals, stress will set up in the rock. Ultimately, the dark color crystals will fall down in the form of grains, and we will call this as an granular disintegration. Can I say इसका best example is granite? Crystalline rocks, granite. So you can draw this diagram. Understanding this process? Can I continue? It occurs in compact rocks which is crystalline in nature, It occurs in the compact rocks which are crystalline in nature. Different colors of the crystals will have, I am just introducing one technical word here, will have different albedo, हमें ये word लगेगा in climate change, albedo. Now before I go to albedo, can someone tell me why is this white in color? Because जो भी light इस पे गिर रहा है, it is reflecting all the light. Why is apple red in color? Because it is reflecting only red color का light. Why is this black in color? Yeah, why is this black in color? Because it is absorbing everything. So earth में भी there is a reflective property of the earth. जितना भी solar radiation that is falling on the surface of the earth, उसमें से कितना reflect होता है back to the space is known as an albedo. So अगर 100% solar radiation is falling on the surface of the earth, उसमें से 51% is being absorbed, 49% is being reflected, तो हम कहेंगे the albedo of the earth is 49%. And earth is made up of different minerals, different color का soil, इसलिए the albedo of the earth is going to vary. Highest albedo हमेशा होगा, क्या है white color? Ice caps in the glaciers. और याद रखना, sun is not going to hit the atmosphere. It is the earth which hits the atmosphere. Sun hits the earth is going to reflect that long wave radiation which will cause heating of the atmosphere. So albedo is a term of climatology basically, but we are using it here because can I say the black color crystals, the darker color crystals will absorb more, that is they will be having the least albedo. जितना ज़्यादा absorption उतनी ज़्यादा गर्मी. See albedo concept in your everyday life, you know this. सिर्फ ये term पता नहीं. आपको पता है that गर्मियों में dark color के कपड़े, especially black color के कपड़े नहीं पहनने चाहिए. You should wear only light color का clothes. What is that? ये है albedo in practical action. You know that अगर black color का कपड़े है तो it is going to absorb everything. White color के कपड़े है तो it is going to reflect everything. So you can take down. will have different albedos. The darker crystals, as they have the least albedo, as they have less albedo, not least albedo, less albedo, they will absorb more insolation, and expand more as compared to the lighter crystals, This differential expansion and contraction will set up stress in the rocks, resulting into loosening of dark crystals and causing crystalline disintegration. Dark crystals causing crystalline disintegration. This is the diagram. I guess you have drawn the diagram. Exfoliation. Now this is again a compact rock, but क्या फर्क है? This was crystalline, this can be a compact well rounded rock. जरूरी नहीं था ये कि well rounded है, हमने डायग्राम में बनाया, but it can be any crystalline rock. This is a well rounded rock made up of some compact element, only one color, that is maybe an example of basalt. Now this basalt, you take an example of this rock being a three-dimensional rock. So ये है interior of the rock, here outer surface of the rock. So whenever there is a sunlight in the tropical countries like India, can I say sunlight, does it penetrate up to a greater depth in the rocks? या only superficial layer of the rocks are heated? Sunlight deep जाता है rocks के अंदर? Sure? आपके छत में से धूप आती है? नहीं. क्यों? Because only the superficial layers of the rocks are heated. Why there is some silence? It should be no. Sunlight does not penetrate inside the rock. नहीं तो अगर sunlight could have penetrated inside the rock, तो यहाँ पे lights की ज़रूरत नहीं पड़ती. The धूप directly अंदर आती room के अंदर. So the sunlight does not penetrate inside the rock, and therefore only the outer layer of the rocks are heated as compared to the inner layers. So क्या होगा? The outer layers of the rocks which are heated, they will expand more as compared to the inner layer. As they expand more, the expansion and contraction will go on, and as a crack will form in the rocks. This is how the crack is formed in the rocks. Now, over the period of time, because ये ज़्यादा expand करेगा, this crack will get enlarged, and maybe the rock will break from here along the crack. As this crack will get enlarged, wind may enlarge this cracks also. So यहाँ पे wind is also playing a part. As this crack will get enlarged, ये पूरा rock will break and fall down. And this is how maybe the first layer of the rock जो टूट के गिरा है here. This is the first layer of the rock which has been falling down. Now the same process will occur on the second layer of the rock. Again this second layer of the rock will develop a crack and it will fall down. So this is how this upar ka second layer of the rock will fall down. Rock will again be reduced, and again the third layer of the rock, usme bhi the same process is going to operate. It will crack and it will fall down. So such kind of a weathering which occurs in the rounded rock, in which the rocks is broken in the form of layers, is known as exfoliation or onion peeling kind of weathering. क्यों onion peeling kind of weathering? Because layer upon layer of the rock is broken. सबसे कॉमन वेदरिंग है इंडिया में, इसलिए वी हैव मार्क्ड दिस एज वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. अंडरस्टैंडिंग दिस, अगर कल क्वेश्चन आता है आइडेंटिफाई अ काइंड ऑफ अ वेदरिंग इन विच द रॉक्स इज ब्रोकन इन कॉन्सेंट्रिक लेयर्स, सो यू हैव टू नो विच इज द वेदरिंग. कॉन्सेंट्रिक लेयर्स मीन्स एक्सफोलिएशन. अभी देखो, दिस इज डायग्रामेटिक रिप्रेजेंटेशन, जरूरी नहीं कि ऐसे ही गिरेगा. दिस इज जस्ट टू शो यू हाउ वाई इट इज नोन एज एन अनियन पीलिंग. But you can draw this as a diagram in the exam also. So next, onion peeling. Onion peeling. It occurs in rounded compact rock. It occurs in rounded compact rock. It occurs in the rounded compact rock. As the outer layers of the rocks, as the outer layers of the rocks receive more insolation, as the outer layers of the rocks receive more insolation, they expand more as compared to the inner layers, as compared to the inner layers. As compared to the inner layers. As compared to the inner layers. The differential expansion and contraction. See, इसमें सारों में एक word common है. Differential expansion and contraction. अब किसी में crystals में है, किसी इसमें क्या आएगा? Between the outer and inner layers. The differential expansion and contraction between outer and the inner layers. Between outer and the inner layers causes cracks in the rocks, causes cracks in the rocks, and the rock breaks layer by layer, and the rocks break layer by layer, similar to peeling of an onion. Similar to peeling of an onion. And hence it is also known as onion peeling type of weathering. Hence it is also known as an onion peeling type of weathering. Onion peeling type of weathering. In the mountainous regions, exfoliation gives rise to exfoliation domes. Gives rise to exfoliation domes, DOMES, domes. Gives rise to exfoliation domes. Example, this is very common in Chota Nagpur plateau. Exfoliation domes are very common in Chota Nagpur plateau. So obviously radial drainage बहुत common होगा in the Chota Nagpur plateau क्योंकि domes है. We have done radial drainage is common in Chota Nagpur plateau. What is happening here? ये cracks है concentric layers में. जो टूट गया वो नीचे आएगा, exposing this rock, and thus over the period of time it will reduce. Whenever the question is there, make diagrams. Without diagrams you won't get marks. Can I continue? Exfoliation is common. Exfoliation is common in the monsoon regions, and also in the desert regions. Exfoliation is common in the monsoon regions and also in the desert regions. In the monsoon regions, high daytime temperature followed by sudden rainfall in the evening, causes expansion and contraction of rounded rocks, causing exfoliation. Fine with this? So these are the three main types of physical weathering. एक छोटा weathering बचा है, hydration, we'll do that tomorrow.